Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Now part two of my special sit-down with Tulsi Gabbard, the former U.S. representative, former candidate for U.S. president. We get into a lot, including big tech, big media, big sports, big Hollywood, the difference between conservatives and the former Democrat Party and the current Democrat Party. Now part two with Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi, John F. Kennedy would be a conservative today, at least fiscally. Martin Luther King Jr. was a conservative guy. He was a very religious guy. He's a reverend. He believed in the things that, generally speaking, conservatives believe in. But the Democrat Party can claim them, and they've attempted to claim them, yet they made this sea change. How did the radical far-left nutsos take this party over? Why allow that? How did it happen? Do you know?
I can't speak to kind of the history and progression. All I know is that they've created such a culture of fear that people within the Democrat Party who are very uncomfortable with the policies and the actions that those in charge are moving forward and not only proposing to Congress, but they are taking the approach of trying to backdoor these changes through the administration, through rule changes and regulation changes, and forcing compliance rather than taking it to Congress in the form of a bill so that the American people can have a say through the voices of their representatives. They created this culture of fear that people see how I'm treated and how I have been treated for years by leaders in the Democrat Party. And they think like, my gosh, I don't want to go through that. I don't know that I can withstand those attacks. I might lose my job, or I might lose my reputation, or I might lose loved ones, family members, and friends. And they make their decision accordingly to just either sit down and get along, go along and just take it, or turn a blind eye, put their head in the sand and pretend like we're not seeing the kind of destruction to the fabric of our country that is happening under those in power right now, the Democrat Party in power.
You went from winning that debate, the first debate, easily, and I'm a conservative guy. I watched and you won, to where they put you on the shelf. They had to. You went from that to campaigning for people like Kari Lake, who's as conservative as I am. That's quite a leap. Have you always agreed with me? This is what I say about Americans, and I wonder if you agree with this. I think we agree on 75 to 85% of everything, and then we disagree on 15 to 20% of stuff, and then we can have that debate and have that argument. Do you and I agree on a lot of stuff? Again, I'm a through and through conservative guy, and Kari Lake and I don't disagree on much. Are you somebody who believes in that conservative American, true, historic, traditional value system? Or are you backing her because she's the right person at the right time?
Well, let me start by saying, these labels of progressive and conservative mean different things to different people at different times, which is generally why I try to stay away from them. Here's why it's not a leap. And I actually talked about this at the rally that I had with Kari the other night. I think that was last night. I'm losing track of time.
I saw the picture of you and Sheriff Mark Lamb, too. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's awesome.
The fact that you were there blew my mind. But go ahead, continue.
Here's what I talked about with Kari at that rally in Phoenix, was that some people say, hey, this is like a shock. This is a leap. How is this happening? What do you have in common? It's not a leap when we recognize what you just talked about, that we have more in common than we realize. And the most important things that we value and that we have in common is a deep love and appreciation for our country, our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and our freedom. That has to be the foundation and the connection that we share, because going on from there, that's what allows us to really talk through a lot of the other issues. Maybe some we end up agreeing on, some we disagree on.
Right.
But if we can stand together as fellow Americans and say, the goal of leaders in this country, whether they're at the national level, at the state level, or the local level, must be to ensure peace, prosperity, security, and freedom for the American people. And we need to make decisions and implement policies that will work towards that goal, will work towards the best interests of the American people, not a special interest, not a political party, but actually for the well-being of the people. Leaders like Kari have the courage to stand up to those external pressures who are looking out for their own selfish interests and actually fight for the well-being of the people. And that's why I went and endorsed her and was glad to stand next to her on that stage.
But what's interesting is what you just said used to be just a given. We love the flag. Exactly. We love the anthem. We love the country. USA, USA, USA. We love free speech. We love the fact that the Constitution protects us from the government overrunning us. And that's suddenly gone out the window. There is a faction in this country, a growing percentage, unfortunately, because they're getting to the young people, who believe that we are just fundamentally a bad country, and we've got to get rid of the flag and the anthem. And you can't say USA because that's racist. What do you say to them? How do you get through to them? And again, your demeanor probably is better than mine, because I'm just going to get frustrated and pull my hair out. But
Well, Joe,
how do you get through to them? Do you? Can you?
you know, I think I think the things that you're saying, those who haven't had firsthand experience might think like, of course we love the flag. Of course we love Independence Day. Of course we love America. This is the norm. This is America. We've
Right.
always expressed great pride in this country. But as you're saying, there again, it's this crazy, insane, so-called woke leaders who don't love our country, who don't appreciate or love our Constitution. In fact, they see the Constitution, our freedom of speech, our freedom of thought, a free and open marketplace of ideas, as a threat to their power. And so what you're talking about is being implemented at the ground level. I'm here in the Quad Cities in Illinois. I'm supporting a woman named Esther Joy King, who's running for Congress.
Right.
And I was at an event with her last night in Freeport, Illinois. Working class community generally has trended towards Democrats, but there's a lot of frustration there with the Democrat Party. I spoke to a teacher who came to this event. I expressed my appreciation for her in being a teacher, and she was telling me about her experiences. She's an art teacher, and she has gotten reprimanded by her leadership, which is coming from policy set at the state level here in Illinois, for encouraging kids or teaching kids, giving them the opportunity to do patriotic art.
Wow.
To do art that has something to do with the flag, that has something to do with freedom, that has something to do with the principles, the founding principles of this country. She has been told by her leadership, reprimanded as a teacher, you better stop or else you will lose your job. She
That's
got
nuts.
really emotional about this, and she's been a teacher for over 25 years. And it is absolutely insane. And now she is having to make the decision, and she is, God bless her and her courage. She's continuing to do it, even though she
Good.
knows that she may get fired.
But it's not lost on you nor me that these people that are putting these rules in place are utilizing their freedoms to do so. They're
That's
free
right.
to say they hate the country. They're free to say that I'm going to kneel, when the flag is being flown and the national anthem is on, because it's all racist. They can do that because here, go to North Korea and do that. Go to China and do
Exactly.
that. Go to Venezuela and do that. They can't. So, Tulsi, they know what they're doing. They know why they're doing it. It's a hope to indoctrinate the young people. So let me ask you this, and I wonder if you've given this any thought. Why do they do it? What is their hope? That they'll become a monarch and the boss of me? What is their end game? Isn't to give it back to the Native Americans. So what is the end game, do you think?
Their end game is their own power for their own selfish interest. And in their mind, they believe that, the end justifies the means.
Wow.
I think a lot of them believe that they are really the best thing for this country, that they believe they are the only ones who can, quote unquote, help the people and save our country and save our democracy. But they are ruining our democracy, threatening and undermining our freedoms, and hurting the American people now in the short term, as well as for our kids and grandkids who will come later. And in their minds, as long as they're the ones in power, because they know what's better for us than anyone else, they will do whatever it takes to hold on to that power and to get more.
Yeah, you've given me more time than expected, and I just have another question or two. Thank you for the time, and please come on my show anytime. My listeners and my viewers have been dying to see you and hear you, and thank you for doing it. I've got to ask you about the midterm, and in this sense, if the Republicans don't get back the House and the Senate, is there any stopping the endless war in Ukraine and our funding of it? Is there any stopping this far move to the radical left where the chief executive gets to decide what laws are followed and which ones aren't? Is there any stopping the porous border and the decimation of these border towns here in Texas? If the Republicans don't get back this power to keep him in check, are we in as much trouble as I think?
Yes, very simply, yes. I'm working 14 hours a day, traveling from one state to the other every day until election day, because we are in as much trouble as you think. It was 66 Republicans in the House and Senate combined who voted against this $40 billion escalation bill for this proxy war against Russia, with the Biden administration and NATO using the Ukrainian people in Ukraine as their proxies. A clear escalation. that has only continued to push us to the brink of nuclear war that threatens all of us and our future and the possibility of of the world as we know it still existing. 66 Republicans voted against it. Not enough, but a statement in and of itself. Not a single Democrat voted against that bill. Not a single Democrat has voted against any of the subsequent funding bills, sending tens of billions more dollars to Ukraine since. Not a single Democrat is standing up that I'm aware of saying we need to close the borders. Kamala Harris is saying we have secure borders. Meanwhile, there are millions of people who are continuing to cross the border illegally. We have, problems within our education system. Parents' voices are not being heard. Inflation continues to rise. Gas prices are going up in so many places. The value of the dollar that working people across this country are earning is continuing to be worth less and less, making it more difficult for them to be able to feed their kids and pay their heating bills, especially in a lot of these states are heading into the winter. There's a lot of problems here. Unless we all get out and do our part in these midterm elections and change the balance of power so that Congress is not just a rubber stamp, back scratching element for the Biden administration's policies and vice versa. We've got to have the check and balance in power, which is why it's so important to get out and cast your vote and bring some other people along with you.
She's out there on the stump campaigning for great candidates across the country. It's Tulsi Gabbard. Go to TulsiGabbard.com. Go and check out her new program, the Tulsi Gabbard Show. I can't wait to start listening to it. I want to end with this, and thank you so much again for the time that you've given me. I'm going to make 2 nice segments out of this over 2 days.
Sounds good.
When it comes to what you said earlier about big tech, big media, I can add in big academia, big Hollywood, big music, big sports. They're all in collusion to try to convince us that what's not true is true and what's true is not true. We know that there are studies that show 10% to 14% of Democrats that voted for Biden would not have had they known anything about Hunter Biden's laptop, which was squelched. That the New York Post was eliminated from Twitter until after the election, and then Jack Dorsey said, made a mistake. Is there any way to let those who are watching and listening know that they can find the truth and they shouldn't rely on big media? They shouldn't rely on big tech. They shouldn't rely on what they're seeing on their TVs or hearing on the radio necessarily. I mean, Tulsi, I tell people I've got 170 stations and 6 million listeners, and I tell them every day, don't believe me. Go and check out what I just said, and if I was wrong, let me know. And thankfully, I've done my homework, and I'm generally not wrong. So what can we tell them other than listening to the Joe Pag Show or the Tulsi Gabbard Show, where they can get real information and trust it?
Be cynical and skeptical about the information you're hearing from the mainstream media, because they have a very clear agenda, and it is not telling the truth. And we've lost journalistic integrity in so many places in our mainstream media. The example that you cited is a really important one, Joe, about how you have the media, mainstream media, working with the FBI, working with 50 senior intelligence officials, including a number of former directors of the CIA,
right,
all working together to say, you know what, if the contents of Hunter Biden's laptop are seen by the public in just a couple of weeks before Election Day, Joe Biden could lose this election. And again, what did I say earlier? The end justifies the means. They decided to steal our democracy, withhold that information from voters because they felt that it would make their guy lose, and then go out and create this lie that we think this is Russian disinformation and should be withheld from the voter. Obviously, it has come to bear that was not the case. Many of us knew that from the beginning. But there's been no accountability. Not a single one of those individuals that I'm aware of has made any kind of apology or said, you know what, I'm really sorry, we were wrong. Like you said, people should do their research and hold you to account, and same for me.
Yeah.
If I'm saying things that are wrong, and I'll go back and I'll fix it. Not a single one of those 50 senior intelligence officials has apologized, and they were asked by a media source, every single one of them, not a single one apologized. So the ante is on us. The responsibility is in our hands. If you're paying attention to the mainstream media, don't believe every single thing you hear. Have a questioning mind. And if you hear something that's a little bit off, go in and dig deeper. Better yet, go to different new media sources like your show, Joe, like others, whether it's on Substack or radio or podcasts, online shows. There's a lot of other places and sources you can go now where people are actually telling the truth, providing information, providing different views and perspectives
Right.
in a way that should be welcomed in our country, but that the mainstream media, the permanent Washington establishment, that they don't want.
I can't thank you enough for the time. Go and follow her on Substack. Go to her website, tulsigabbard.com. Check out her brand new program. I know you're on Locals as well. Follow her wherever she happens to be. The candidates she's pushing for are people who love America and love the Constitution and want freedom and liberty and want to keep this administration in check. It's Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi, thanks a million for all this time, and hopefully we can talk again soon. Thank you.
Great to talk to you.
All right, we're back after this. Stay right here.